Hey, you guys, it's your girl Sherry, and welcome to a special episode on the Grieve, Grow, Glow channel. Today, I have one of my girlfriends who will be joining me, and I'm super excited that she came, that she's coming to be a part of this special episode, you guys. We will be having a candid conversation. We will be vulnerable, transparent, and we will be just having a candid conversation with just two girls sitting in their grief. Okay? So today, I want you guys to know that grief changes everything. The way we breathe, the way we move, and the way we love. But even in the darkest seasons, sisterhood can be a light. Today, I'm going to sit down with my beautiful friend Shanita, who recently lost her husband. I think we're going on year 3, if I'm not mistaken, either year 2 or year 3. This is not just a conversation about loss. It's about love, strength, and what it means to move forward, even with the broken heart. I invite you guys to lean in with us. This is going to be real. This is going to be raw. And this is what grief really looks like. Stay tuned. Hey, you guys, it's your girl Sherry with a special episode today. We have my girlfriend Shanita that is joining us, and she is going to share her journey through grief, right? This channel is about grieve, grow, and glow. So today is going to be more so for the married folks, a married perspective, and we are going to hear her journey, and we're just going to sit here and have girl chat, okay? So before we get into it, again, please like the video, share the video, and please comment. We welcome your comments, okay? So welcome, Shanita, to Grieve, Grow, and Glow. I am so happy that you decided to come and join me. So I just want us to talk. Don't have to be formal. It's just girl talk. And just, you're going to share your journey. But first, how did we meet? Do you remember how we met?
We met at a conference. We shared the same table, and we had the opportunity to do some table talk and share a little bit about our journey. And that's when I learned that you were on your grief journey after losing your fiance. And my grief was pretty fresh at that point because my husband had just passed away in August, and that was in October. So it was pretty fresh.
Yes. And the ironic part about it, when we sat at the table, because the girl that invited us to the conference had all these different tables. And when I first sat down, I was trying to sit next to my girlfriend, and she's like, no, I have a purpose, okay? You're sitting here, I want you to get, meet new people. And I was like, it was so ironic how everybody at that table was dealing with grief.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my goodness, because you lost your husband, I lost my fiance. The lady to my right, I believe it was her husband. Mm-hmm. And then the lady that sat in front of you, was it a sister or something to that aspect, right? Mm-hmm. And then when we started talking, because we had icebreakers, right? And I believe how we ended up, I seen the connection was, I have another girlfriend that was telling me that she had a friend that lost her husband, and she didn't know if she should go. She wanted to respect her space. She didn't know how to reach out. And I was, not newly on my grief journey, but she was new. And I was trying to offer her some wisdom. I'm like, yes, still go. People want you to still reach out, right? Mm-hmm. And so I knew Shanita's name, but I didn't know Shanita. I just remembered the name. So when we started talking, you said your name was Shanita. You lost your husband in August. I'm like, wait a minute. This can't be. It's like, wait a minute. Do you know a girl named such and such? And you were like, yeah. I'm like, girl, I know her. And I was like, see, God works in mysterious ways. He knew we needed to meet each other. And we have been friends since then.
Yes.
I know that she has been in her journey. I'll reach out to her. I give her space. You know, if I don't hear from her or whatever, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to push. And that's one of the things that I like to do. I'm here for you, but I'm not going to push you. Because everybody's journey is different, right?
Right.
Me being alone, I love when people reach out to me, right? Because I'm always by myself. But other people don't like that. How is that for you? Like when people reach out?
What really got, like, I didn't have a problem with people reaching out. It was just that sometimes people were reaching out by text message, so I was feeling inundated and I would feel overwhelmed and feel like I gotta reply to all these people and I can, and it was just, that was the problem. It wasn't so much people just saying I'm checking on you, and then that question would stop me, like, what do you need or how do you feel? It's like, I don't know what I need. I need a lot of things. I can't really identify all of them. How do I feel? How do you think I might be feeling?
Yeah, exactly.
So that was the thing that got, like, it would just be so overwhelming. And then I was in all these groups, and it was all these group text messages, and then I just had to give my permission to not respond. Exactly. And I said, either they understand or they don't. At this point, I don't really care, because I'm just trying to make it through 1 second, one moment, you know, and through the day. So I just gave myself permission not to respond, but nevertheless, it was still overwhelming. Then I just stopped just opening up my phone. I just stopped, and then it was a lot of phone calls, and it was a lot. And
I get that. And other people don't get that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because they want to be there. They want to show the love. But sometimes it could, because you're still trying to figure it all out. Yeah. Like, this is your new norm, right?
Right.
So share with us your journey, what happened, as much as you want to share about losing your husband. Let us get to know him.
Okay. Well, first of all, I was married to my husband, my king with a small K, my best friend. My life partner, so, you know, I had imagined, and things were going well. We went through, you know, that disruption in our marriage that all marriages or relationships experience, and God just completely healed our marriage and restored it in such a magnificent way. Like, you knew it was only God. That's how transformative it was, and we were like just two peas in a pod. Like, we were just truly doing life together and truly operating as one, which that had been a struggle with early on in our marriage, because we had a blended marriage. I had experienced multiple pregnancy losses, and it was so many things that we were contending with that we couldn't really take care of our marriage or take care of ourselves or one another. And so God had just been, like I said, he had been doing that transformation in us individually and collectively. We had served as Mr. and Mrs. Virginia, and then Mr. and Mrs. USA Global. So we were serving in the community. My husband was mentoring other men, and we were doing things, you know, marriage mentoring for people in blended families, those who had experienced pregnancy losses. My husband was sharing his journey as the husband, explaining that men grieve differently. So we were just doing a lot, and he was supporting me. I was out on the road and speaking and doing other things in the community, and he was always there. We were serving in the ministry together, and just, you know, life was great, you know. And just suddenly he got sick. It started with strep throat. He had an upper respiratory infection. And then that went on for several weeks, and then he was losing weight. He didn't have much of an appetite, and we thought that was just because, you know, when you're sick, you know, you don't feel like eating. But then we just noticed that he was losing a significant amount of weight. And my husband was 6'2", 200 and something pounds. Wow. Like, he had a healthy appetite. And he loved fried chicken. And I put chicken in front of him, and he doesn't take but a few bites. I knew something was wrong. So he started going to the doctor, and they had him like keeping a journal, and he had to weigh himself, and they were running all these tests, and they couldn't figure out what was going on with him. And one day I came downstairs during the middle of the day because we both worked from home, and his office was in the basement and mine was upstairs. And I had gone downstairs because usually he's the one checking on me and making sure that I eat and giving me my morning coffee, but the roles had reversed. So I'm checking on him, making sure that he would eat something. And he was laying down in the middle of the day, which was unusual. And he just said he was just so tired. And I said, well, get some rest. And I came back and he was still lying there. So I said, that's it. We're going to the emergency room. So when I took him to the emergency room and they ran all these tests, they saw some mass that were on his adrenal gland, his kidney, and some other areas, and said that he needed to get to an oncologist ASAP. Once we left the hospital, like, I started immediately, it's like he had some cognitive issues that I didn't see before. Like, he didn't remember what day of the week it was. He started asking me these questions, and I'm just like, huh? Like, what do you mean? And like, he didn't understand what the doctor said. They had given me the CD and everything.
Yeah.
And he just didn't really understand what was going on. And so they also said that, he might need to be looked at by a kidney doctor. So I took him to another primary care doctor, and she tried to say he had kidney failure. In the meantime, we was trying to get an appointment with an oncologist. We had finally gotten him an appointment, but like every day he was more and more confused.
Okay.
And I didn't understand what was going on. And I took him back to his regular primary care doctor.
Yeah.
And she did all these tests. And his sodium levels were really, really low and some other things. So she called me on a Sunday. This was after we had celebrated our 17th wedding anniversary. And he used to do all the driving, but I had to drive because he just totally was out of it. And just he didn't know whether he was coming or going. And when someone would ask, he would say, ask her, because he wouldn't know how to explain anything. And she said, you need to get him to the hospital ASAP. And they admitted him to the hospital. And so he had a kidney doctor, he had an infectious disease doctor, because he had inflammation of his brain. So they thought he had some condition called encephalitis, and it's some type of bacterial infection. So they was treating him for that. So he had a oncologist, neurologist, the nephrologist, the infectious disease doctor. So he had all these doctors, and he was running all these tests, and he was so confused. And he was asking the doctor, like, what's going on? Am I gonna die? And it was heartbreaking. He was there for maybe like 3 weeks, and then they knew that they had determined he had some type of cancer, but they didn't know what it was. They did a biopsy, they did a spinal tap, they did all these different tests. And he didn't know, and they wouldn't allow me to stay there with him overnight, but I would be there like 14 hours a day. And I would get there early in the morning before the shift changed so I could find out how he did, because he was getting confused at night. They had a bell, so emergency bell, like if he tried to get up, because he was at risk for falling and getting confused about where to go to the bathroom. And it was so frightening. And they finally released him. They told me he wasn't going to be able to work again because the inflammation in his brain had was so severe that it had affected, his ability, his cognition and everything. And it was horrible. And so we got him home, and then finally we got the diagnosis, and he was diagnosed with this very rare blood cancer called peripheral T-cell lymphoma. And they send people in the U.S. typically don't get it. People like in the Caribbean or from Africa, which he was neither. So they didn't know what it came from. And they scheduled him for his chemo, and after he had his first chemo, he had it like on maybe like a Monday or Tuesday before July the 4th. And by the end of that week, he wasn't able to eat. He couldn't take nothing by mouth. He was no longer able to stand up and walk. So I had to do complete care for him. I tried to enlist the assistance of the nursing aid companies, and it was that whole process was a nightmare in itself. But he did have nurses coming. He had a speech pathologist. He had a occupational therapist, and there was another type of doctor that was coming. They was trying to get him to learn how to swallow because he wasn't able to swallow anymore, and so he was at risk for choking or being able to have to be intubated. If food went down or water went down. So I had to learn how to administer food through something called a TPN, a total something nutrition bag. He wasn't getting properly hydrated, so when they would come to do the blood draw, they weren't able to get any blood, so I had to learn how to give him an IV. And also I had to learn how to like give him like shots of something called heparin and some other stuff, and connect the food bag to him so that he can get some type of nutrition. And he was very, very weak, and I thank God for a community, because I'm one person that I'm the helper. So I never knew how to accept help from other people or how to ask people for help, but I couldn't do it on my own. And so my pastor was there almost every day. My son came from California, and he was with us for several weeks. My daughter, my neighbors and friends of neighbors and other friends they was leaving food. They was sending, diapers, because he had to wear diapers, wipes, and I forget the nutrition drink, Ensure, and all types of things, supplies and stuff for him, sending inspirational videos. And I mean, it was just amazing, the outpouring of love and care that was received. And I'm very, very grateful. And God taught me in that season that we all need help. Absolutely. And it's okay to accept help. You can't always be the giver. You have to be the receiver, and do it with an attitude of gratitude and not feeling like a burden to anyone. You're not a burden. We are called to come alongside one another and to support one another. Absolutely. During difficulties in life. And I had a community that did that, and I'm very thankful for that. And so he was supposed to get a feeding tube, and we were so excited. Me and my kids, we were because we was thinking he's gonna get his strength back. He's gonna be able to get up and walk. I was resolved with the fact that he wouldn't be able to go back to work. But at least if he was 80%, even if I had to drive him everywhere and take, he could still go to the bathroom. So like I was good. But he would just look up at me, and I don't know, I think some part of him still remembered who I was. He would like reach up and he would grab my hair. Oh, wow. And I would put on worship music, and he would throw his hands up in the air and he would praise the Lord. And one day my friend was visiting, and she was singing "Yes, Jesus Loves Me," and he started like kind of humming it. Oh, wow. And it was so beautiful. And I got the communion cups, and he couldn't really swallow anything, but I would take it and just anoint his head and pray over him. And I would play some of the music, Charlie Wilson and other songs. And he would listen. I put it on, and I put his hands up, and we would just get to moving, and he would laugh and clap his hands sometime. And my son was playing with his PlayStation, and it was some game that was on, and he started laughing and clapping his hands. I mean, it was just, but he had gone, I just, I told God, I had lots of conversations with God, but I told God, I said, Lord, I know that you can heal him. I said, I know that you can. I know that you can do all things but fail. And I said, but Lord, I just want your will to be done. And whatever it is, whether you heal him miraculously, whether you heal him, through medicine, or you heal him on the other side, just give me the strength to bear it. And it came to that point, was that day when we got up that morning. He had an appointment to get his feeding tube, but he wasn't, he had gotten a cold. They had moved him from one side of the room to the other, and he was over the vent. And so he had a cold. And when the occupational therapist came and the speech therapist came that Saturday, we sat him up and we were hitting his back just to try to loosen up that phlegm that was in his chest. And he said more, because we was hitting him. And she was like, "Does that feel good to you?" And he said, "More." And so we just sat him up and we were just hitting his back, just trying to look, and had him up in the bed.
Yeah.
And that Monday morning, he had a seizure before we could get him out the house. And I was just like, Lord, and he just looked so sad, just so sad. And the thing about it, like, just getting him to and from the doctor was all orchestrated, because we had to call on people to help. There was times I had to call the non-emergency fire department to get him out of the car. So getting him out of the house, into the car, out of the car, into the doctor, back. That was like this whole, because even though he had lost a significant amount of, that's all dead weight and muscle.
Yes.
And we're just sometimes he would put all this weight on us, and we try. And then the wheelchair that they gave him wasn't suitable for somebody of his stature. Yeah. And he just broke, literally it just collapsed.
Oh, wow.
And had to call the neighbor to help. I mean, it was something. But anyway, then we got him to the hospital that morning, and when they sat him up in the bed, all of that stuff, he just released it all, and it was like, we can't give him. No, we can't do this. He's got to go back into the hospital. So they sent us over to the emergency room, and they said they had to intubate him. And as soon as they intubated him, he went into a coma. And he never came out the coma. They showed me the x-rays from his brain, and the cancer had covered his entire brain. And they kept trying to tell me, but I was like, God has the final say. I know what y'all saying, because they was getting, because they said it could maybe it's infection and not cancer.
Okay.
So they had to literally drill, and that just they had to drill a hole in his head, and they had to go in there so that they can examine to see what it was. And he was just breathing with the machine, and I knew that he wouldn't want to live like that. He wouldn't want to live like that. And sometimes we want what we want.
Absolutely.
And we don't think about what the person might want.
Absolutely.
And we had lots of conversations about this. And even though I didn't feel comfortable, we talked about that. And so I had a medical directive, and all of those things were already in place. And so I just wanted the family and the church members that we served with, they came and they prayed over him. And we were believing God for his healing, but God did heal him. He just healed him in a different way. And we met and decided we were going to go ahead and take him off. And he fought for a good 15 minutes.
I know that was tough, because I've been through it, so I know that. Tough letting go or making that decision to let him go. So I definitely feel your pain, because I've been there. It's not easy
Not by any
making
means.
that decision. But in your heart, he wouldn't have wanted to stay here that way.
No.
Because you knew your husband.
Yeah. He would not.
And that's love, letting them go.
Yes. Absolutely.
Right? That
letting
is love.
them go. That is love.
So how has it been? What did it look like once he was gone and you buried him and you had to get back to some type of normalcy? What did that look like for you? Because that was new. How did you maneuver through that time?
It didn't feel real. I can tell you that. It just didn't feel real, and your body keeps a memory. And so I would wake up thinking I had to go and change him or check on him because I was used to that. Like I was working, I had the little, a baby monitor.
Yeah.
And I would watch, and I would be up and down the steps because we had to move him from my bedroom down to the basement. So I would just be up and down the steps, checking on him, reading, talking to him, or talking to the kids, and so it just didn't feel real. And I remember even being in the kitchen and having to reach something high, and I said, "Honey, I need your arms."
Yeah.
Because that's what I would say. And then I was just like, "Oh my God!" And I just would like break down and cry, and just the day-to-day things that I had become accustomed to that I later learned through grief share, the secondary losses, because you got the primary loss because the person is no longer here.
Yes.
But then the secondary losses, and then the amount of paperwork and trying to figure out everything, and not having the what they call widow's fog, and not remembering things, not filing things on time, and just the confusion.
Yeah.
And then just like trying to come to grips, like just like that, I went from being a wife to being a widow and a single woman, navigating this journey alone. And all the plans and all the things, like all of that was just gone. And it's like, okay, God, what is it that I'm supposed to be doing right now? What is this new season of life as a widow and a single woman? What does that look like? How do I walk this out? Like just help me to just get through today. Yeah. And it's literally seconds and minutes throughout the day, because 1 second you're okay, then you see a picture, you hear a sound, you hear something, you run across something that brings back the memory of that person that you love dearly. And just being able to, to give yourself compassion, first of all. Like, you're not crazy, you're grieving, and it's a process. And it's
absolutely.
And it's okay. And so I had to give myself that permission and to acknowledge that this hurts. It really hurts. Yes, you're at peace, because he's not suffering
anymore.
He's not here in a body that can't operate the way that it was designed to operate, and the way that he was accustomed to. Having someone to literally care for him second after second, changing him like a baby.
Yeah.
And so I was at peace with that, but still devastated.
Oh, absolutely.
Because that was literally
my world.
Best friend, and everything. And but God was like,
that's it. That's all. You have to call on him and lean on him, right? And so, did someone recommend you get therapy, or is it something you knew you had to go and talk to somebody? Because some people, when you go through it, you don't want to talk to nobody. It's like, just leave me alone, let me sit in it.
Yeah.
But at what point did you know, or did someone say, hey, I think you need to speak to someone?
Well, honestly, I've been in and out of counseling since middle school, so I already knew that some of, I call them opportunities, that I contend with is major depressive disorder and anxiety and panic disorder and PTSD and insomnia. So I knew that in order to mind my mind and to really remain holistically healthy, that I had to seek help, but I had to get a different form of help, because for each of those things requires either someone specialized in those different things, or you might have to speak to a couple of different people. But now I'm dealing with grief on top of all of that. But I didn't know about Grief Share, but one of my good friends who actually came from Florida, she was coming to relieve my son after he had been here for 3 weeks from California. She had gone through it because her husband passed 9 years earlier from some type of brain cancer.
Okay.
And so she was there with me. And so she had gone through Grief Share. So she told me about Grief Share. And I looked it up. And she even came with me for several.
Okay.
It was virtual, and she attended with me as moral support. And so...
would you recommend that to others that are grieving? Like,
I would definitely recommend Grief Share. I went through it twice. Once was virtually, and then I went in person. I know that, the one that I went to virtually, so it was a mixed group. There were some widows, there was people that lost parents and children. So they were coming from different ways, but it was still grief, nevertheless. But when I went through it the second time, it was primarily individuals who had lost a spouse, so it was different. And then I also went through another program that's offered through the military. They had a grief, so I went through like everything that I could get to help, to aid in my healing. Now, when I first did the virtual session, it was making me angry because they want you to tell your story, and I'm like, I don't want to keep telling my story. And then when I hear people's story, I'm crying and weeping. I gotta come off the camera. I'm like distraught, because I'm hearing their story. Because
you get all wrapped up in theirs, and you're remembering about your own.
Right, and then I'm feeling, because I'm naturally empathetic and an empath, I'm feeling like all their pain, so it's just too much.
That's a lot.
And so. Yeah, so just know if you're ready. If you're not, it's okay. You can start, you can stop, you can go as many times as you want. I like that.
Yeah.
And it's no pressure, but do something. Don't try to do this on your own, because you can't. You can't do it on your own. And even have a trusted small circle of people that you can cry out to, or you can call on to, because it's too much with the masses, everybody reaching out. Or the people that say that they're going to, but they don't. But a trusted few, that when you are at your wit's end, you're distraught, you can't even get up out the bed or whatever, just have some people in your life that you can turn to. And the thing that I share with people is just how great God is. So before this all happened, I had just changed jobs. I was in a very toxic work environment, very stressful, and God blessed me with another job. My husband, the same thing happened to him, and so he had gotten promoted, and he was in this new position, and was in a very supportive work environment. And because of that, I was able to really navigate through this whole process with him becoming ill, and even up to him transitioning and after, because I was in a safe environment. His co-workers and supervisors, they was helping me get that paperwork filled out. The HR was absolutely amazing. They were sending stuff. They was checking on me. Even when he was sick, one of his supervisors, his wife is a nurse, and she came over to show me how to change the sheets. Wow. And then I had another friend from my church who was a nurse. She would literally work overnight at the VA and come over and bathe him. And then there was another nurse that would come over, and so when I tell you that people showed up and showed out from the moment that he became sick all the way and even after. And then I was a mixture of two churches, because we left our church that we had been members for years and went to another church with some other pastors who was at that church. So both churches showed up, brought water, food, like it was a God thing.
Nothing but God.
And then to be in an environment where I can tell myself, I'm having a bad day, and her completely being empathetic and understanding and loving on me and encouraging me. Even after he died, I had to go away to do training, and people were talking about, I'm going to call my spouse. You know, they want to go out at lunchtime, stuff that I would normally do. And I just bust out crying in my supervisor's arm, and then her supervisor's arms.
Wow.
But I was able to be transparent with the group, because they didn't know to tell them what was going on, and, and how I was feeling at that moment. because I didn't have anybody. I went back to my room and I was alone. Like I would tell him like, this is what happened during the day. These were the highlights. This, and I couldn't do that anymore. So it was all those like things compounded. You know, the things that I used to be able to do, the person that I would call with the good news, the bad news, the good, the funny joke. He would share with me all these TikTok, these comedians and different things, the funny stories of the morning text and him saying, "Did you?" And my boss took on some of the stuff because I would keep working and not drink water or eat, and he would be like, "Babe, here's some water. Have you had anything?" So she started saying, "Did you have any water today? Did you eat?"
Just having supportive people in your space is the world.
Yes,
is the world, and that for me, when I went through it, the same thing. Yeah. Luckily, I was in a job where to this day, my boss is one of my closest friends for over 30 years. And when Matthew was in the hospital for 9 days, he said, "You go take care of that. Don't worry about work." Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so having that support means the world. So you don't have that on your mind. You got so much that you're dealing with to worry about work.
Right.
So that's a blessing in itself, and that was nothing but God.
Nothing, because if I would have been in that other environment, it would have been completely different.
It would have been different.
I wouldn't have gotten like his everybody in his group donated their leave. We never had to worry about that. You know, his paycheck didn't stop. I got leave. You know, I was able to work at home and navigate through all of that. But if I had been in that, my supervisor would not have cared. She would have just been worried about, well, when are you going to do this and when are you going to do that? Like, absolutely no compassion, no empathy, nothing. But God already knew this was going to happen. He already knew.
Of course.
So he ordered all of this. Mm-hmm. And the same with my husband. If he had been with his former group, it would have been completely different because those people didn't care.
Wow. And that just took a lot off for you, just being able to navigate forward. And I'm thankful that you had that support, you know. So now that we are, 2 years since he's passed?
August will be 2 years.
Be 2 years. Mm-hmm. How is it with, how do I word this? Because I know that I felt, and this is my personal experience, that you're still grieving. Grief doesn't have a timeline. You could seem like you're fine, and then one thing, like you said, music or something will trigger you back to that space, right? How was your support system in that aspect where you may be having a bad day? Are you able to talk about it, or do you get pushback? And they don't do it to be mean, but they do it because they don't understand or they don't know what to say. Do you get that? Or do you have people around you that truly understand how to support you?
This time around, I have people that truly supported me. Now, I had mentioned earlier that I had some pregnancy losses. We had twin boys that passed away, and then I had 4 of them miscarriages. And I remember when the twins died, people would say, like, "Oh, God doesn't make any mistakes. They're in a better place. Thank God you have 2 other kids," as if they could replace them. I mean, people were saying all kinds of stuff. Wow. And I think it was just because they just didn't know what else to say. But when you don't know what to say, just don't say anything, because it was very, very hurtful. And I began to use scripture or these things, colloquialism, or these phrases that people say that they think is supposed to help you to feel better. I began to feel like I needed to rush through that process, and I didn't grieve.
Okay.
And if you don't go through the process of healing and grieving, you will either repress it and you will explode or implode and become aggressive, or you will become very, very depressed. Yes. And both things happened to me because I hadn't I hadn't processed my pain.
Fully.
I didn't acknowledge it. I didn't feel like I should be able to, because God knows best. But God gave us all of these emotions. But I wasn't strong enough at that time to understand that. So I just buried it inside of me. And then it came out in the wrong ways.
Yes.
And so going through that process and learning that that's not the way to grieve, and that it's okay to grieve, allowed me to walk through this process differently and to have different people in my circle. I had the wrong people who really didn't understand, and some wasn't they just didn't have any empathy, or they were repeating things that they had heard.
Okay.
And so not to, judge them or to be angry with them. They didn't know.
Yeah.
And so I learned through grief share, and even through that process of telling people what is not helpful. This is not helpful to me when you say that.
That's good that you can speak up for yourself.
Yes.
Let them know, because people don't know.
Yes.
But again, as you said, if you don't know, it's better to say nothing.
Right.
Because you don't know how hurtful it feels when someone says, you've grieved too long.
Right.
That is
You're still talking about this?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
How long has it been now?
Do you think that is appropriate to say? And sometimes in my mind, it's like, these are people that haven't truly lost.
Yeah.
I think everyone will experience loss, but when you experience a loss that's close to your heart, then they'll realize those words are how hurtful that can be. They'll truly understand, And so I always, when people say that, it's like, instead of me responding, I say nothing. And I just like, okay, that's not someone that I want in my circle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because...
Well, I started educating them, because while we may be able to go on, somebody that might break and destroy somebody. So it's better to just let them know that that's not appropriate to say. It's very hurtful. It doesn't help with my healing. Maybe you don't understand this, but maybe you need to educate yourself, but it's not acceptable.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I tell you, we have been through it.
Yes.
But, God knows best, and I am so thankful that we are in this journey and we are walking it together.
Yes.
We are, it's good to have someone that you can talk through your grief with. And that's how Shanita and I have bonded through our grief. We understand each other, and we are navigating this life.
Yes.
We take the time to feel. Because you have to, as you said, let it out. Yes. Because there's 5 stages of grief, and you're going to experience every one of them. Or you may repeat the same one over and over and over. And you never know when it's gonna come out, right?
Yes.
And so, in closing, because we've been on here and we've shared, and we don't want to hold you guys too long. What would you say to someone that newly lost their spouse? What kind of advice would you give them? What would you say to them? Somebody watching right now that may not have a support system, may not want to go to grief share, because some people just don't feel comfortable speaking around other people, right?
Yeah.
What would you say to someone that's just here that is alone, that doesn't have a support system?
If you're alone and you don't have a support system, first of all, reach out to Sherry. You can reach out to me, but it's very, very important that you not try to go on this journey alone. I mean, God created us for relationships, and unfortunately, I meet people all the time who they don't have a circle. We all need a circle, and if you're not comfortable being in an open support group, even if you can join virtually and not speak, and maybe put something in the chat,
Yes.
and listen, and maybe see if you can connect with one of the facilitators whom you could speak to. Counseling, go to a grief counseling. I just finished up my certification as a grief coach. Maybe there's a grief coach that can help you, on this journey. But give yourself grace and know that this hurts. It's a part of life, and nothing about this life was meant to be beautiful and lovely and tied up with a red bow and pain-free. Yes. Nothing about this life. And we all have a birth date, and we all have an expiration date. And that still doesn't, even with that knowledge, doesn't mean that when it happens to someone that we love dearly, our spouses or anyone else, that it won't hurt. But when I tell you, when that scripture says that joy comes in the morning, it does. Absolutely. And we may not have the strength because we weren't designed to have the strength. God wants us to lean on Him. He wants us to cast our cares on Him. He wants us to trust Him and to press into Him. And so you got to get into your word too. You got to feed your soul, nurture it with God's word, and get in His presence. Put on some war music, and that's my worship music. I find those songs that really speak to my soul and my whatever I'm going through at that time, that really ministers to me. And I just surround myself with things that are lovely and pleasant. I do journaling, get with nature. I love the water. It's just so calming to my spirit. Find out who you are and what's important to you, and what is that source of comfort. And think about the memories. Your spouse may not be here, but I just started just cultivating this attitude of gratitude and looking back at the years that God did give us instead of the years that we don't have.
Yes.
What were the years like with Him? What about the times that He made me laugh and started reading cards, and I would cry, like boohoo cry. I remember I found He had a list. He had been studying me of things that I like, things that I don't like, things that make me smile, that bring me joy, favorite colors, he just literally had this long list. And, God just gives you these little surprises out of nowhere. And you just start saying, oh my gosh, I remember that, looking at pictures. And it might hurt, but just if you focus on what was,
yes,
instead of what is not, and just being grateful and sitting in that and allowing yourself to go through this journey and knowing that it's your own unique journey. No one gets to tell you what that journey looks like, how long, what way to grieve. It's yours. And each of us are unique, so we grieve differently. But just love on yourself and know that you matter and you're still here. So God has a purpose for you. So seek Him to find out what that purpose is. And when you get on the other side, and I don't mean that you will ever stop grieving, but you'll be able to continue to live and live life to the fullest without your loved one. But knowing, how can I take this pain and turn it into purpose? How can I come alongside others and speak life into them and encourage and impact their lives in a positive way?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. This has been a pleasure to have you on the channel. I had been saying on other episodes that I was going to bring someone, and I know they probably was like, okay, girl, this is 8 episodes. Where's the special guest, right? So I am so grateful and thankful that you freed up some time to join us today. And again, you guys, like the video, share the video, so this video can go out to many people that need the help, that needs to hear encouraging words. Right? Because grief is not easy. It is so hard. But every day we are both navigating our new norm. Right? And just having a support system around you means the world. Okay? So drop any questions you have in the comments. I will definitely answer every comment. If you need assistance, you want to talk to one of us, put it in the comments. We will definitely reach out. We are here to support you. You got this, okay?
Yes.
So until the next time on Grieve, Grow, and Glow, it's your girl Sherry. Deuces.